both of their characters, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yeah that's right. They would do anything for him.
Even risking their own lives to get him water. Yeah. Sometimes, I really like kitchen water versus bathroom water, but my kitchen's further away. But I'll just settle for bathroom water. Like, I won't walk the extra 10 feet. Let alone...
We're learning a lot about Nicole.
Let alone go all the way to Bethlehem. So, it gives you a clue into their kind of relationship, that it's a really honoring relationship and full of mutual love and respect. Which is not kind of the picture you get in
First Kings. Well, let's go to the second great story in this chapter, and it begins with in the spring when the time when the kings go out to war. Now, Nicole, tell us what happened in First Kings when it was spring and the time the kings went out to war. What happened?
Well, do you mean what happened in 2 Samuel, or do you mean what happened here? Well, in 2 Samuel, I believe it was the time of spring, the time of war, and David stayed at home to look at women taking baths.
The bed, bath, and beyond.
He had a little rendezvous with Bathsheba, and then had this whole conspiracy and had her husband essentially murdered out on the battlefield. That's not respect between king and soldiers. No. And the scandalous story, and kind of the thing that creates David's downfall. Now, what does
happens?
First
Chronicles
say about the springtime?
First Chronicles starts out, and it has the exact same language that occurs in which 2 Samuel?
It's 2 Samuel.
Yeah, 2 Samuel. I should know. We just did the tapes. I get them confused. And exact same language. So we know that the author knows about 2 Samuel. But David does not have anything to do with Bathsheba. Joab, his second in command, is going out and he's doing battle, and David is staying at home, and he is dispatching with the leaders that are sent to him. But David does do something that is evil in the sight of the Lord, and in the view of 1 Chronicles, it is the reason that the kingdom is taken away from David. And he counts the people. He numbers the people. And part of the explanation for why this is such a bad thing is the sense that you count people for two reasons in the ancient world. You count them because you're raising an army or because you're raising taxes. And David's not allowed to build the temple, but the reason why he's counting the people is perhaps he wants to do that anyway, which is not a good thing. And some people also suppose that in the time that it was written, there was also a move to count the people, and it was not a popular one. So it's this sense of don't take a census, because that is not a popular thing. So it's a completely different reason for why David was a disobedient king, and again, probably telling you more about the culture of the day than really even the history of David.
Yes, very much so.
But fascinating to have two totally different perspectives on the same story, which is why I'm glad it's here.
Yeah, it's nice. And our third story is the smooth transition between from David to Solomon.
Yes.
And remember, in 2 Samuel, he goes through a couple sons before he gets to Samuel. Absalom and a few other sons die, and Solomon's the last son. And in this portrait, it's painted as Samuel was always the one that was going to inherit. Solomon was always the one who was going to inherit. He's God's chosen one to inherit. No real mention of the kind of the civil war between the brothers. And so David calls a gathering together and hands over the kingdom to Solomon, saying, keep following in the ways of God as you already do, and he'll continue to bless you. And he also receives the blessing to build that temple, but to build the temple. because Solomon in this story, is a very faithful man of God.
It reminds me, Nicole, of the phrase that you hear in church sometimes, pastoral ministry, where you afflict the comfortable and you comfort the afflicted.
Yeah.
And it seems as if, in the Deuteronomistic history, this time of hope and promise, and they're hoping to restore everything, they're able to look more honestly at their leaders and show David for kind of the cad he is, and the messiness of Solomon. And then, when the people have been broken,
they're
desolated,
right.
You have this sense of trying to give a much more comforting picture of the history, because there's distance now, and they're looking back, and they're trying to say, we had some great leaders.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we do with George Washington and the cherry tree.
Yeah, you notice, like, I do history, and so I like to look at how history changes throughout time, and how these great leaders like Lincoln, Washington, FDR have been characterized over history changes depending on who's doing the story, and depending on what state the country is in at that time. And you'll find, like, during good times, during economic booms, you can say it both ways. You get a much more critical and cynical picture of some American leaders, whereas during hard times, you kind of get some glossier versions of our American presidents. Just this week, in June, not where you guys are, the Time Warp thing is messing me up. Yeah. The cover of Time magazine this week is what Obama can learn from FDR, and it's a very rosy picture of FDR's policies. I remember reading something about FDR in another Time magazine about 10 years ago, where it was very critical. And when the economy was up in an upswing, 99, everything was great. So things change.
They do, and I think it shows how, just as we have conversations in our culture, we reconsider our leaders and positive and negative attributes. The Bible itself, this is what you're overhearing, is a conversation within the Bible itself between its own history.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I invite you to do is not have this unified picture of the Bible where everything has to agree and everything has to be consistent, and then you have to defend anywhere that it doesn't seem to agree. No!
That's not what it's about.
No, the Bible is a collection of voices. It's a huge family gathering where everybody's trying to jostle and talk about,
much of the time it's point counterpoint.
Yeah.
And I think people expect it to be like a very succinct,
simple, easy.
One narrative that goes on. And let's not forget, there's two narratives in the first two chapters of the book.
Exactly.
Of, like, the whole book. Never is there ever one continuous narrative that's cohesive.
It's way better than that.
It's way better than that, and way more complicated. And so, in academic circles, a lot of times they're like, "Oh, look how junky the Bible is," because there's two deaths of Saul, and there's two creation stories. See how stupid the authors were? Dumb. And I think they're really missing the point. Completely missing it.
It's a better book.
It's a
because
much
of that.
better, complicated book. Yeah.
Great. Well, we'll see you again for 2 Chronicles.